Oh, really? Hello, how's it going? Good, how about with you, Miss? I'm good, thank you. You're good. Okay, we have 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Roll call is Danielle or Miss Melissa that's going to be doing it? Miss Danielle, okay. Let's read the roll. Okay. Chairperson Diane Parker. Here. Okay. And member Daniel Owen.
Here.
Johnny Kane. Okay. Donald Chris.
Here.
Gary Knuckles.
Here.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, item number A, under scheduled business, we have minutes from the previous meeting of May 30th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to go over those and look at those? It's been a while since we. Motion has been made for Commissioner Bowman. And second by Chief Knuckles. Okay, former Chief Knuckles. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Same sign opposed. Okay, motion passes. Okay, item number B, report updates from public safety departments. Number 1, emergency risk management, emergency manager.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak. So I'll try not to take up too much of your time. It's we had actually quite a bit happen in the last several months since we've been here in a while. I just want to go through with fire response, some weather events. Thank you, Chris. A little bit of public outreach that we've done. The fire department, of course, handles all fire calls. On rare occasion, they do ask for emergency management to go out and assist them. We give assistance with rehab, getting water, getting them to get fed. Usually through the ministerial alliance, who graciously enough to help support us with that. And of course, they called us out to the Red Stag fire. One of the cool things about that one, not the fire itself, but the county emergency manager, Johnny Montiel, he actually brought out his drone. That's the aerial shot that he got within minutes of the fire being a little bit more under control, so he was able to get it without all the smoke. But that tool is going to assist the fire department, and assist the police department on various events. Anytime that they need, they can call out. And Johnny, if he's available, he'll bring that drone out. He can give live video of the scene. And that right there was a file of, I think, almost 100 pictures that the drone was flying over in a pre-programmed flight, and it was able to get compile that picture into that slide. This is a very good tool that we'll be able to use in the future, and they're available to work through the county and their creation stuff. Yes, use them.
That's very cool.
It is. It's really cool watching that.
Have they considered purchasing an infrared camera?
It has it.
Pardon?
It has it.
Oh, it has an IR camera? You.
I remember asking a previous chief if I could buy it.
It wasn't pricey.
at the time.
Even now, it's.
It's a great tool to have.
I think it's a $50,000 machine.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, and it requires special FCC licenses to buy it. You can't just take it out for a spin. So,
Very forward, that
And so it's it's recorded, like documented when it's checked out or used and so forth.
Johnny has to log all the hours for his flight time, just like an airplane, you have to log in your flight hours, and that goes towards his licensing. He will help people get their licensing for it, so it's available. I just haven't been able to get with him to get mine, but he's very helpful with getting that process going.
Yeah, and you can see real time what's going on, I think.
Right, they have real time
Yeah.
options and recorded options for
Yeah.
later on, it's a wonderful tool. In addition to the fire response, they sometimes call out for residential fires when a family is displaced. I can go out there, I can get that family in touch with some local and state support systems like the Red Cross, once again, the Ministry of Life, I can't speak good enough, not well enough about them, they help support a lot. Also the United Way, so that's another thing I assisted with this past, I think it's helped me out twice for that. We did have weather events. We had a very, very active weather storm season this year. I'm not sure if you guys noticed all of the storm chasers that were in town, and I hated that just because it made me so nervous that if our storm was so active that we had people from around the country taking pictures, then some bad things could happen. Luckily, Portales, the city of Portales was able to avoid the worst of it. However, we did have 2 tornadoes in the county. Both of them were out in non-populated areas, so that got lucky. And they lasted very short time, within minutes, they were able to land and then dissipate. The worst thing that we had was 3-inch baseball size hail. Baseball size hail can reach up to speeds of 100 miles an hour when it gets to the ground, so that can be deadly. Luckily, we only had about 2 inches in town, and it caused minimal damage to our city. However, Elida got hit pretty rough, and many of the houses out there did suffer some major damage. Luckily, we didn't have anybody injured, but it was pure luck. We had a horrible storm season, and we got lucky. That's a dust devil. People reported tornadoes. That was only on 18th Street near the southern part of town, and it was just a dust devil. A very impressive one, but thank you. Next one. Public outreach. The Chief Jackie was nice enough to let me know about the Head Start. They wanted to have a emergency preparedness class, and I showed up, I talked to them. It was amazing. I actually really loved talking to them. They had a lot of questions. They really gave us an opportunity to hand out some small emergency supplies. Honestly, the best thing about that is that it wasn't a kindergarten room and everybody had to sit in chairs made for 4-year-olds. And very rarely do I feel like a giant talking to people. And that was the best part, is talking to all these adults, having to sit down like that. But it was really well received, and I did enjoy it. And on Thursday, I have another public outreach. It's going to be going to the high school, and I'll be helping out with the reality check day, just representing the city there. We'll be talking to the high school students and giving them a crash course in the realities of not having money when you're an adult and having to pay all your bills. So that's going to be my first time doing it, and that's going to be a good experience. That's hosted by United Way, so I'm working with them. Yeah. Insurance claims. So of course, with the emergency management side, and also the risk management side, we work with tort claims, city claims, and workers' comp. The next one is going to be for the tort claims. So the tort claims, these are claims from the citizens against the city. And these happen, and every city has to deal with these. We've had in the last, since we last met, we had 7 tort claims that have been filed against the city. We've had some people who inquired about them, but there was no carry through. So that means the initial 5 that I know of. So it's about $7,665 of reimbursement for those claims just since we've had the last meeting. Now that's only counting stuff like this wall, where they had an actual equipment and repairs that get fixed. These are not counting people who are medically injured. who might be medically injured because those bills are still being processed. And so it doesn't count any procedure complaints that people might have, because those are hard to actually get a dollar amount. We have to wait till the very end of that claim to get processed, and those can take several months, if not years, to process those fully. But right now, since the last meeting, we have just that dollar amount for certain.
So there's a process for this, correct?
There is a process for that. It's a very simple process. People just get a hold of me. We have a small amount of paperwork gets filled out. I send that off to our insurance company. And I work with the insurance company a little bit during that, but once they assign an agent, that agent works directly with these people to process that. Now, the agent will also determine whether or not it's a valid claim. I don't determine whether or not anything's valid. If they can come to me with the most outrageous claims, then I will send it off and make sure health paperwork is correct. And the insurance company will determine whether or not it's valid.
Okay, so once that process has gone through, because I have a neighbor that had called that when the dumpster, when you said dumpsters, when the dumpster was laid back down in the alley, it went up against his fence and knocked his fence like over, it was a chain link fence.
Okay.
And so they filed and did what they needed to do, but to this day, he still hasn't gotten it repaired, because I was told, I thought that we had to get a contractor or somebody to come in and fix it, or who fixes it once the insurance company?
The fence
Yes.
has to be done by a contractor because it's on private property.
How it usually works is we get the property owner will get a contractor just to get it fixed, just like you would with your car. You take it to a mechanic, they get it fixed, and the insurance company will pay the mechanic. It's very, very similar. You get a contractor, they fix the fence, they would talk to the insurance company would reimburse that person. Occasionally, if there's an invoice that was already, the work was already done, already paid, the private citizen can send the invoice to the insurance company, and the invoice will, they'll reimburse them directly.
Okay, I'll get with you and then we'll kind of.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
sometimes, especially our New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund, they've gone through a lot of restructuring. So some of the agents, it's been shuffled around a little bit, so they're doing a little bit of catch up on some of the claims that
Okay.
may have been processed
Okay.
more quickly than now. I usually tell people when I help them with this, that if they haven't gotten back within a month from the agent, give me a call and I'll work through the rest.
Okay. I'll get with you. Thank you.
What level of distance with him? What percent? The officer trying to go through the gate. Fence can go. Oh, he's right. There's a gate. Okay. When he tried to go through the gate, the fence came up.
Yeah, it was just an impressive looking
He
picture.
was trying to push the gate open, the fence came down.
Hopefully nobody got hurt on that one.
This is a city claim. This is damage to city property that we got reimbursed on. We're getting, it's a process that we're getting reimbursed. This is a light post. It's one, I'm guessing around $38,000 to get repaired. We already are working with the insurance company. This one right here, actually, the private vehicle insurance denied the claim. And so I had to transfer that to our insurance company, and they decided not to pursue that with their insurance company, with the private citizens, and they were processing it for their own. We've had 4 city insurance claims to our self-insurance fund. All of them have been approved, and we have 6 additional damage to city property. But those weren't either, they weren't given to the insurance company because they were below our deductible. It was minor enough to fix in-house, or it was denied in one way or another. Next one. Workers' comp. We've had, the last time we had the meeting, we only had 1 injury, but I think that the meeting was only 2 months complete. This last time we had 7 employees who had to file a workers' comp claim. All the injuries, I think we should have a little bit of follow-up, but nothing I would say severe. There's gonna definitely be some work that they're gonna have to go through, but hopefully nothing long term. And everybody's back at work. A lot of these are immediately after we have a workers' comp claim. One of the part of the process of filing that claim is to ask the department head how they're gonna fix this and keep it from happening in the future. Nothing's 100%, but it's an ongoing training that we're trying to keep to prevent future accidents.
Right, good.
And something like this, he had, things happen. If something hit his eye, but luckily he was wearing his safety equipment, and that could have easily possibly saved his eye because of that he was wearing the safety equipment. We've had 6 additional workers' comp, and those didn't get filed because some workers' comp, like I twisted my ankle, held up one line every day. I gave myself a paper cut, like they don't even want to file, it's like, just in case something comes up, at least it's on file. So we filed these minor injuries, just in case something in the future comes up.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have, how do you get the information out to the employees about how important it is to do what they need to do? Like, for example, luckily, this employee is wearing his safety glasses, but I mean, of course, my experience working with the schools is like, don't stand on chairs like this, that you're gonna slip and fall, don't do different things. Do you have classes or training, or how do you get that out to the employees on what they can do and be very, very careful about doing certain things to avoid workman's comp claims?
A lot of those are within the department specific, so the claim is actually given to me by the department head. And the department head is the one who fills out the correction paperwork. And that would go through their supervisors, and I can't say for certain, hopefully it's at the education goes further down. A lot of the process is we are re-educating people how to do this.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And that's it for the past quarter. The coming up quarter, I did apply for the HMPT grant almost 2 years ago. I did actually go in front of the city council to get it approved, or to even apply for it when it first came out. Finally, it's been approved. I haven't gotten the approval paperwork, it's happened so recently. But this grant is about an $80,000 grant with a 10% match. That 10% is also half covered by the county, because this is going to be made to make a all hazard mitigation plan for the entire county and for the city. This plan is needed to apply for a multiple amount of grants. It's also going to be in the future basically required documentation. This is something that we've already supposed to have had, and we've kind of been getting by without it. This is something that we've been needing for years, and now it's going to finally be made. We're going to use the grant to hire a contractor, and that contractor they're not going to sit there and make it, but the entire city, all the county departments, we're going to have to work together with this contractor to get this made. We expect an average one takes about 18 months to complete, and it lasts 4 years. And then once after the 4 years, when you have the grant, it's an update to that, or when you have the plan, it's an update to that plan and not a brand new one. So it's a little bit easier, slightly easier to maintain those as opposed to creating new. And of course, the winter weather, everybody's been worried about that. If I hear everybody saying that they're expecting a bad winter, cold, snow. They're expecting that more than I hear from previous winters, so we're going to keep an eye on that. And I'm still working with the Ministerial Alliance for housing people. The police department actually works better with that they do spot people who are in need out in the streets when it's very cold, and they work with them to make certain that those people are housed. We did play around with the idea of doing a cold and warming shelters for the city, but financially, it's actually better just to house these people individually on an individual basis at the hotels. Because the amount of money it's going to take to open up the building, to put electricity for the people to staff it. Yeah, and then the insurance, it's just, we have such a relatively small population who are in need of that. They can just financially easier and more responsible to come into the. And that's what we got going on next.
How do we let the people in the public know that that's available? Besides going to Facebook, avoid the Facebook. I mean, educate the public that if there is a need, if there's somebody that's needing that. I know a lot of them during the day will go to like several churches within the community, but like, who determines, okay, it's gonna be really cold tonight. Do you go out looking for them, or do they know to contact somebody, or how does that get out there?
A lot of it is word of mouth through the churches, and then the police department, they're aware of the spot people. But the churches, they do a lot of community outreach. They outreach with the meals and the services they provide. But that's really it is, and where it is. It's that Facebook, people monitor the Facebook comments saying, hey, we need someone, and then even Mr. Welcher will.
Do we have something like, I don't know, like a flyer or like a card or something that? Have we ever done anything like that, that we can take like to the convenience stores that are open late or the grocery stores? I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Would that be something?
That does not exist right now. That's something we can look into. I can talk.
I mean, so like during the day, people can pick it up and go, oh, if something does happen. Because even though a lot of these people that are not with homes and they're out and about, they have cell phones.
Right.
So they would have that means of contacting, but it's getting the word out that this is available.
Well, United Way helps with that. So
Okay.
when they call United Way, they can let them know that we were working on things like this as well.
Okay,
But that is, like she said, that's something we definitely can work on.
that would be, I don't know, what do you guys think as far as,
It's worth the
I don't know,
small effort.
that's just, yeah,
To do it.
that's just kind of,
Typically, the Ministerial Alliance has us check, make sure they're not wanted for those students. Make sure they're really who they are. So they usually call us. We're usually involved in that process for the legal reasons.
On an average cold day, how many do you typically see that might need assistance for?
See that need it or see that will take it.
Well, I know there's different, those that actually need it and might take it.
I mean, I would say we probably have maybe 3, 4 in town.
On cold days,
At most 5.
okay, where do they shelter then at?
They seem to find places some. Most of them don't accept it.
Right,
Those that will go to Ministerial Alliance put up a hotel,
right.
those that won't.
I know we've done that before with some of our clients. But I just wondered if, if there was a large number, if they needed kind of direction to go on where to house them if there were a larger number per se.
They try to work with them to put housing them at the Economy Inn. And then with United Way, they work with people who have housing. It might not necessarily be stable housing, but they work with them to make certain, try to get their bills paid, pay part of their rent so that these people stay housed and don't become the other population that is going to need these hotels. So there's a lot more preventative on it than there is a reactive on that.
okay, good. Okay, have you noticed, Chief, if the number has increased from like the homeless population compared to what we used to have? Has it increased?
Oh, yes, from what it used to be. Absolutely. I mean, at one point in time, finding somebody who was homeless and almost impossible. Now we've got our main handful.
Which I think that's like everywhere, so. Okay, good. Okay, does anybody have any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, so Antoinette, one question is that when you give these reports to us and we very much, it's kind of looking what has happened in the past. So my question is, so like what you were saying, I want to always be proactive rather than reactive. So now that we have these statistics on what has happened in the past, like you were talking about the fires in the summer and all this, the emergencies and, all these storm chasers that were coming in because of the storms. What do we do? And do we keep like a record? Okay, this is what happened last summer when this, storm came in. I mean, the big hail and all this kind of stuff. What do we do? Is there something that you're doing to prevent that, or like, kind of like with the workman's comp? Let's change it so it doesn't happen again.
Well, as far as the storm season goes, the best thing we can do is just monitor it. And we work with the National Weather Service, and they let us know beforehand when the storm is coming. We try to get the word out to the public that, hey, this is coming. And just let it out on that. We do have to work with the workers' comp. The thing about that is that all the accidents, they're not actually the same. Every single one that we get is a completely different accident. It's like, yeah, we train for them to have their PPE on, and then all of a sudden, someone, something random falls on someone. It's like, okay, now we have to train for this. And like I said, every single workers' comp we had is so not even closely related to the other one that it's the best thing that we can do to prevent that is just do a general training to let people. It's more situational awareness is where it all put together, and so that's a little bit harder to train for, because people just get used to doing their thing and not realizing, but that's something we do have to keep an eye on, to remind people of situational awareness, that's the major part.
That you said that, I think that's an important part of the safety training that we all have to go through every year, the hours that, you know, I can teach you how to wear your gloves and glasses and the things that you know you should be wearing. But situational awareness, knowing your surroundings and paying attention, I think needs to really be stressed. And that's where you can avoid most accidents, is being aware of what is about to happen.
And yeah, the safety equipment, it seems to be used very well, and that we do have our police and our supervisors maintaining that, which is wonderful. But then something simple as they stumbled and sat on an anthill because they didn't pay attention.
Right.
Simple things like that.
And-
Yeah, but
And the city, just correct me if I'm wrong, the city is not the one to determine whether we accept or deny a claim. You just have them fill that out and you send it into the state, is that correct?
I send it to our insurance company.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am. I'm impartial on that. I can make certain that all the information is provided to them and the forms are filled out correctly. And they determine whether or not that claim is valid.
Okay, very good.
And,
Okay,
and workers' comp claims can last anywhere from just the initial visit to the emergency room and never again, all the way to several years, decades after. So they are a very long process.
okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you very much, Attorney. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we're going to move next to the fire department. Chief.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At any point, if you have a question, feel free to stop me. As always, it's our mission to be prepared and ready to serve, to provide the highest quality service to our community. And after all, we are a rolling arsenal against death and destruction. The next slide shows the results from our hydrant testing. It's been a hot topic for a lot of people in the community. The company has completed testing. The reports have been sent to the water department. They're developing a plan of action to address some of the issues. We have identified some of the issues with their testing on their figures, because to be quite honest, I don't trust that we have 92 hydrants in our city that pump over 1,500 gallons per minute. They've never tested that before, and my experience tells me that most of those might pump 11 or 1,200. So operationally, we have to be concerned about that and keep that in our mind if we're rolling out our commercial structure, to know that, yeah, maybe blue, but you probably only get 1,000 gallons per minute, 11,000 or 1,100. But there's the statistics of where we're at. We have 54 out of service hydrants that the water department is actively working on at this time. 2 red, 14 orange, 156 green, and 92 blue is how it tested.
Okay, can you tell me what the colors mean? So
Yes.
blue is.
Blue
okay.
is 1,500 gallons per minute or more. Green is 1,000 to 1,499. Orange is 500 to 999. Red is 499 or less, and then black means it's out of service.
So why would it be out of service?
Either it doesn't doesn't let any water out when they turn it on, or it's broken. There's a multitude of reasons. It may be so tight that they can't get it to open. There's numerous different problems. I have the list of the report that I can email to anybody that would like. So you can see exactly what the black hydrants are being marked black.
And how
for.
often are these tested?
Well, they're supposed to be tested annually. Historically, the fire department is tested, but due to our increase in calls for service, we haven't had the staffing to be able to do so. So me and the water department work with the city manager to hire Waterway of New Mexico to come in and do the hydrant testing, because it is a part of our ISO
So is
requirement.
this the first time we've used this?
Yes, it's the first time we've used this stuff.
And so what is like, okay, so 1,500 plus gallons is what we want. Is that, I mean,
That would be ideal, but I don't think our system is built to pump that, except maybe 10 hydrants in the industrial complex where they're boosted, and then right off that 24-inch main are about the only ones that I've seen in my career that I felt probably would meet that blue requirement. But there's some that are painted blue that I've tested personally, that Chief Knuckles probably has tested, that are showing blue that are probably not actually blue. And I don't know what the discrepancy is. I know the water department is planning on trying to do some spot testing to confirm and evaluate. Because that may be another one they have to utilize the new system. Or the new company to test again. One of the issues that Chief Knuckles identified when he talked to me about this is there's a coefficient which has to do with the internal makeup of the hydrant on the spouts. Whether or not they're rounded or squared off and that affects your gallons per minute. When they came in, they figured everything at the best possible.
At 0.9 is what they
Yes,
figured
sir.
all of them, which is the highest coefficient you can have on a hydrant. Well, they're not all 0.9. We know that because we've tested them for 20 something years. So when you add that up and if they're testing at 20 PSI residual, that's what you have left over when you're sapping that hydrant's water. It's what you have to have left over or you create a suction. So I could suck water out of your swimming pool if your hose was filling and turn it on. Basically, it creates a suction. If you drop your residual down to zero, it creates a suction. I don't believe their numbers, and I think there should be some transparency as far as comparison of those numbers to your testing. Not only for safety issues, but if I'm a big box store and there's 2 blue hydrants in front of my store and I know what those are supposed to do and you hook onto those and my store burns down because you didn't have that. Well, who assumes that liability?
It's going to be the city, wouldn't it?
Somebody's going to.
So.
And when I retired, just an example, and I'll get off this, there were 4 blue hydrants in Bertella.
Now there's 90.
Well, 92 that are paid.
Okay, so that's what I was gonna say. So basically now we have the numbers. So now, like the 54 that are out of service. And you said the water department is doing something. So when's, are they gonna be retested? Who's gonna retest them?
Once they get them back in service, I believe they plan to retest it. and then
The
take
same
them-
company will come back?
No, I
Oh,
believe the water
Water
department.
department can test it.
okay.
That way we don't have to wait. We can get it back in service and honestly, the ideal situation is for the water department to have enough staff to handle that to where we're not paying out of pocket for a private company to come in. Because historically, if the water department tested it and found an issue, they can fix it right then. So where with this private company, we have to wait for 2 weeks for the report, and the fire chief has to call them 15 times, get hung up on twice, just to try to get a report.
So is this something that would come through our insurance company then? Because I'm saying liability of the city. Because if the city, exactly what you're saying, if one of our larger stores has 2 blue right there close by and it's whose property is it? It's the property of the city, correct?
The water system, yes, not the business,
No, the hydrants,
the hydrant.
the hydrants. So wouldn't the
But I was
city be
told,
liable?
like, say, for example, Walmart, that's not our hydrants. I don't know if that's true.
They're
Walmart,
listed under ours.
They're annexed in the city, they should be our
It's
hydrant.
piped into our water system.
So we want to make sure that the city of Portales wants to make sure that those blue are going to in fact pump 1,500 gallons
Yes,
per
ma'am.
minute.
And green.
And green,
Because if you look at those numbers, they're showing 70+% of our hydrants will flow over 1,000 gallons a minute, and many of them over 1,500 gallons a minute. So that's a lot of water. And I know our city doesn't.
so if we go out and test, if the water department goes out and tests a blue, supposedly that's already marked painted blue, and it does not in fact pump 1,500 gallons per minute, do we have any recourse with this company that's doing this? Because I mean, everybody's like freaking out because we have 54 hydrants that are black.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, why are they black?
Well, sometimes that could just be, they just need to be greased or maintenance, simple maintenance. So that might be a big deal too, but it just depends on what they found was the problem.
Yes, it can be a service issue. It can be a valve that shut off. Down line away from that hydrant. There's many causes to have a hydrant out of service where it just won't flow water. The stem may be stuck. They can't turn it on at all, you know, the hydrant ring. So there's a number of causes for that. That's a lot of them. But that, I mean, that's not my concern at this point, the black one.
It's the ones that are misleading.
And that's great news for ISO ratings, you know, that's awesome news, but Is it real? That's my question.
Well, that's kind of scary. I mean, and the city is definitely liable. I think that the city is gonna be liable for that.
Right.
And we don't want that, we don't want that liability.
That's why we're trying to fix it now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And the good thing is we have a very smart fire department that knows what they're gonna get out of those hydrants going into a fire, so they know.
The problem is with that, when they paint them, most rookies have to go through fire school, they know these colors, they know exactly what
Right.
they're going to pull up to and. And know they're gonna have 1,500 gallons a minute. Well, if it's not there, if they have 600, 700, that's a huge difference.
so these numbers are,
They're a national standard.
but these numbers are. Are we considering these numbers to be accurate then?
At this time, we
Yeah.
can't say yes or no. We
Yeah.
are gonna have to get back out there and.
And I didn't even wanna bring this up, and Chief knows I didn't want to bring it up. But I tested these hydrants for over 20 years and I learned from very smart people that taught me how to test them and figure the numbers. And we never had that kind of water here, just never.
Now, I do think we would have seen a small increase due to conservation efforts, but not enough to justify this.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, so we're in the process of getting these.
Yes.
Yes,
and that
okay.
may be
Thank
the,
you.
that may be the reason, you know, no one could water their lawns. They tested during that period that lawns usually are watered heavily and
Well, and again, I think it's a portion of it, but I don't think it covers all of the increase in the testing results.
it would increase the static pressures, but as far as the volume, I don't see that.
Well, and I think that, like we talked about, the biggest increase in the volume number comes from them not actually checking the true coefficient.
Maybe so.
Good. And then will you keep us posted on how this is? Yes, okay.
Chief, could I ask one thing?
Yes.
I would just like to look at one of our last tests that we did in the fire department. And just compare those numbers to see,
I've looked at them and they're pretty different.
yeah,
A lot of it comes from that 0.7 to 0.8 to
Yeah.
0.9
Yeah.
coefficient. And I have sent that over to the water department so that they have it to compare as well.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to some current accomplishments, we received $25,000 from the Trauma System Development Grant for our fourth powered stretcher. We're in the process of determining which direction we're gonna go. That's a little bit more than a stretcher cost. So we're trying to decide if we can pick up the extra cost and buy the stretcher mount that actually charges the batteries when it's stowed. So we're gonna have to make a tough decision at our next officer's meeting. But we have 5 personnel paramedic class, 3 in intermediate or EMT, 4 in EMT basic. And we're fully staffed as of this month. We do have 2 grant applications turned in for the vehicle purchase grant for a new ambulance. Local systems improvement grant for 4 new cardiac monitors. And then I've got the trauma system development grant in progress. We're trying to determine what we want to apply for that. Odds are it'll be a cardiac monitor in preparation for trauma, the other grant not being able to cover all 4.
Chief, I have one question. Is Workforce Solutions still helping you out with your paramedic program?
No, as you know, there's a ton of hoops that the student has to jump through.
Yes.
The biggest help that has actually gone above and beyond Workforce has been the Opportunity Scholarship. It's covered a huge portion of paramedic and intermediate and basic training costs. Moving on, we did an employee satisfaction survey. It was based upon the several things that keep people at a job. Do they feel trusted, empowered, on a mission, valued, appreciated, involved, promoted, challenged, mentored, and paid well? Some of the highlights from that survey: 94% feel officers and other employees help them grow by providing guidance. 82% feel challenged to perform at a high level. 82% feel involved as a member of the PFD team and family. 94% feel that they are part of the mission at PFD. Next slide, 88% feel that they are trusted as an employee. 100% feel that when they have a question about a subject, they can go ask someone that might know the answer. 94% feel that they step up to the challenges of being a firefighter and EMT. And 88% believe that their performance is at the high level expected of a first responder. Then after we get past the positives, 53% do not feel appreciated. 76% feel they're not paid well, and 76% feel that they are not paid fairly for their current performance and services they provide. Along with that, on the next slide, we did a anonymous employee mental health survey, and both of these were anonymous, by the way. But 73% of personnel are experiencing significant symptoms of PTSD. And the survey revealed that 4 personnel are utilizing counseling and 3 personnel are prescribed medications for their PTSD symptoms. Looking at our run volume, so far this year, from January through October, we've had 2,814 total calls for service, 86% were EMS and 14% were fire. 83% of our run volume initiated inside the city limits, and 17% came outside the city limits. Within that, there's the more concerning number of 724 instances where call volume overran our response capability, causing response delays in care for our community. Moving on to the next slide, got to credit retired Captain Gary Watkins. He brought an article from the old Region 3 EMS publication that showed some statistics that are pretty interesting. In 1989, Dallas Fire Department ran 1,201 total calls. 812 were EMS and 389 were fire. At that time, they had 18 total personnel. They had a fire chief, an EMS building secretary, operations commander, and 3 shifts of 5 personnel, so 15 operations personnel. In 2022, we ran 3 times that run volume at 3,606 total calls, with 3,114 being EMS and 492 being fire. So with that, we've seen a 200% increase in total calls for service, with only a 60% increase in shift operations personnel to accommodate for that 200% increase. In 1989, they had 4 ambulances, according to the article. We still have 4 ambulances, so we've got 0% increase in our EMS units. So that brings me to our current needs that we'll talk a little bit more about later, but we need to increase our response capability through increased staffing. We need to. The biggest issue with the vehicle replacement plan is funding. I mean, things are expensive these days, and finding money for that stuff. And then balance public safety wages, and then thankfully with some help from the city manager and finance, we were able to move our EMS billing specialist or our part-time clerk to a full-time position. Because with those numbers from 1989, we should have 3 full-time EMS billing specialists. And we had 1.5. So with the increase in calls for service, that means you get more EMS calls to bill for workload for one person, to where if she ever took off, there was no way to catch back up. So we were able to move our part-time clerk to full-time, and that started on Monday. And we do have a plan that we'll talk about a little bit about the increased response capability. But other than that, I thank you for your time, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
A question, vehicle replacement plan.
Yes, ma'am.
What, I mean, do you like plan ahead knowing that if when you buy a new vehicle, it's gonna give you approximately, you're gonna be able to use it for approximately so many years?
So many years.
Or you're already planning for this?
100,000 miles. Typically for an ambulance, it's 10 years, 100,000 miles. For a fire engine, it's usually 15 years. But the first 10 years, it's first due, second, or the last 5 years, it's in reserve or so on. But we still have a 1978 Hendrickson that is first.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have an ambulance with less than 100,000 miles?
one.
I mean, there you go.
So my question is, is there a fund where you put money in, because you know in 10 years, I'm gonna need another ambulance, or I'm gonna need another fire truck, or I'm gonna need more vehicles? Do we have something like that? So when 10 years comes, we don't say, oh, shoot, we get a new ambulance, where are we gonna get the money?
We've been actively pursuing every grant opportunity. Joe has done an excellent job. I believe she's turned in 2 or 3. Three grant applications for ambulances. The problem is the city budget cannot.
Doesn't have
afford-
extra money to put
Doesn't
into
have
it.
the extra money to put into it, because an ambulance is one of the cheaper apparatus that we have. I mean, you're looking at 250,000.
I was gonna say they're well over 200,000.
And you look at a engine, 800,000, ladder truck, 1.5 million. Things, and I mean, our ladder truck which right now, and I guess I should tell this community, is out of service. Because it has a leak from the head gasket that RMJ is assessing at this time. It's 10 years old. There's just not a lot of extra funding to go around to fund this, although the city's working actively to pursue grant opportunities as well as myself.
So if you have 10 million laying around.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah.
I don't know.
This
I know
way.
somebody think that
You know, honestly, I think you can't pull all that money out in 1 year. you know.
Right. Right,
Well, and I have a plan built to replace an ambulance every 5 years. I do engine every 5 years. I do brush truck every 5 years. That would keep our fleet updated and, you know, in better shape. Right now, we're spending a lot of money in maintenance because even if I had the money to buy a new engine or a new ambulance, you're looking at the earliest of 2-year delay.
So yes, it needs to be a planning process.
right, yes.
But funding that plan has been, you know, the challenge.
Big tickets, big tickets.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you very much, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Good information. Okay, moving on, we are moving into police department. Chief Lance.
So just to start off with a quick update, since I prepared this, I had a conference call with Novoa Global last Wednesday. And they're estimating us to be about 90 days out from the first 2 systems being up and installed in the school zone.
So are we talking the cameras?
Yes.
Okay,
The other locations, of course, we still have to wait. DOT approval. But we're supposed to get the flashing lights for the Abilene school zone along with this, and then put them in the Valencia school zone.
okay, so at this point, where are we on education? Educating the community, letting them know, communication, here it comes.
Right, they're supposed to start sending me out some paraphernalia propaganda
Okay.
for us to put on a website, things like that. So that we can push out the awareness and everything else. And then, of course, once they're up and running, we do the 30 days of just warnings.
Okay.
So we'll have that, so we'll start pushing out a lot of the awareness. When we do get it going, we'll have our signage all around town, so that we can do the photo enforcement, so hopefully we'll help reduce some speeding. All of them, for the people who come through not knowing what's going on. But that was pretty good, and then I met with Judge George and Irene earlier today too, and they're excited to see it come, so.
Okay.
So for the next slide, so we've recently been receiving all this funding that the state has been pushing out for law enforcement. So we've been able to retain 15 of our officers on those 3-year contracts. We've got 4 new hires that will be receiving the stipend and everything else to hiring on. With our uncertified officers, we're not giving them that bonus until after they graduate the police academy, because we don't want to give them all that money before they complete that.
Do you have any at the academy now?
We have 2 at the academy.
2 at the academy.
One set to go to the next one, and then we've managed to get 1 certified officer.
Okay, so the 4 new hires, are they certified? Yeah. One of them.
2 will be December 8th, and then the other one will be set to go to the academy in February. And then with some of this other funding, how it's freed up money for us, and then as well as the junior bill we got from the state, thanks to Senator Engel. With that money we got from the junior bill, we were able to get 3 new vehicles ordered. The Ford strike kind of pushed those back a little bit. Those are, we're hoping we will have by March, April, we're hoping. And then Elida is getting us their police pickup. And with this last go around of funding where it freed up money for us to, what it's doing is covering salaries and benefits for the officers so that we can use that money we had budgeted for things to help with the officers, but keep them around, that hopefully get some in. We were able to get 2 more new vehicles, but we haven't been able to outfit those ones yet, but it's enabled us to push some of the other ones out to other officers. So like I'm driving a vehicle now that doesn't have any radio equipment or anything else.
What kind of vehicle, Chief?
These last 2 were expeditions because they had been on the lot. We have 2 F-150s ordered and 1 police interceptor, the Explorer, because we have an officer who is not comfortable driving such a large vehicle. She's on the shorter side, so we wanted to make sure she felt comfortable with that, so we got the Explorer.
Really?
And then for the new equipment, which I'll get to later, but so with the stipends for the county, no. I've got later slides. So, but with our retention stipends of the 15 officers that we've retained, most of the officers have received over $30,000 in stipends to stay over for the next 3 years. That funding does continue through this fiscal year and into the next. The new officers, of course, are receiving an $8,000 sign-on incentive. It hasn't really helped us a whole lot. Clovis is offering the 2,000, and they're not seeing much either. And then with the new equipment, so we're replacing a lot of the old police vehicles, and anybody who drives by and sees those 4 blue and white units out there, those are not just sitting there as yard ornaments. Those are, if we were fully staffed right now, those would be on the streets in use probably for about a day or 2 until they go back to the shop. We just can't, they're just so old and high mileage that we can't keep them running long. We're getting the new Tagers to replace the obsolete ones that we have currently. The current ones we have had for at least 8 years, they're no longer supported by Axon. And the new ones cost about $5,000 each. So we're gonna get 14 this budget year, which will outfit all of our patrol officers. And then we'll get the other 10 the next budget year out of the funding from the state. We got Miss Austin was gracious enough to allow us to use the old Sammy's old office at Memorial Building. So we have that now turned into a training major case space for us. We have our major crimes unit cases. Thanks to IT and Yucca, it has 3 monitors, one of which is the smart board that we got from the DA's office a few years back. And then we have the cameras. One of them is the same as this one here, and the other one the Powell, so we can do all of the online seminars, trainings, whatever we need to do. Works out really good for them. And then some of the other things after talking to officers about what kind of things would help them feel more comfortable staying, help us recruit. We placed an order for some pink badges, so that we have those for October, and then we've got a couple of officers with personal reasons for wanting to try to wear them all year long. I don't see much of an issue with that.
As well as we ordered the pink patches, it was just too late. Too bad that they didn't come in. We've ordered new uniforms that are different fabric. The ones that we have, they work well, they hold up fairly well, but they show the wear pretty tough, so trying to do fabric that the officers like. The wound care kits, so Sergeant Aguilar went to some training for how to do this, so there's tourniquets, bandages to pack and compress, all this stuff for any type of major wound. So that if we go to an active shooter situation, an officer gets shot, or any number of things that can happen these days. We're outfit the officers with a bag specifically for that treatment. And then we're also hoping to continue with that and upgrade it to have kits for mass casualty in units. So that if we show up to any of those things, whether it's a large scale crash, an active shooter, any type of incident that would require that, so we can have that. And then we're still trying to get quotes so we can proceed with putting up the security fence around the parking lot of the police department. So we managed to get two. Getting people to get us quotes is harder these days. So those are the major things.
Why is it hard?
I don't know.
Because they know the city's gonna go lowest bidder.
I'm sorry.
They know the city has to go with the lowest bidder, so a lot of times they don't even give us a quote.
Bless you, but you're so sorry.
Well, that, I guess maybe their business is just going so good. that they
Some of
pick and
them are,
choose.
yeah, some of them are really doing very well. Some of the construction companies local.
We're having a lot of problems with insurance companies, people who fences and repaired and finding contractors, they're doing. They have like, people, I just do quotes.
Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy.
yeah, it's a compilation.
So there's, and the graphic they sent us for the pink badge. Although they just updated us today on it, yeah. They can't do the top, bottom, and the bottom rocker the same with that because something to do with they're wanting to reverse the color toward its black lettering and pink banners. And then that's an example of what the kits will be for the officers. And then, of course, the new tasers, which we're still going with yellow, so they're clearly identifiable as not a handgun.
Keep for your officers, any of them AED trained or carrying AEDs?
We don't have any AEDs at the
Okay,
They're all trained.
they're all trained, they don't have the AED. available.
I mean, I stumbled across some grant opportunities today that I think I'll put in for that. We gotta get those.
You know, I've seen so many times when an officer arrives on scene before we get there, that AED, trained personnel, not just CPR, but having the AED. Definitely could have maybe made a difference,
Right.
you know?
I know when I was with Curry County, they purchased those, all of us at that time.
It's not a bad thing.
No, absolutely not. So our current issue that's really killing our manpower is the transports. Not so much juveniles anymore, but with mental health commitments. Like I said, I did this before previous scheduling of the meeting. And at that time, we had done 8. In the last 2 weeks, we're averaging about 3 a week. We did 2 this weekend. When we do those, it's tough because we don't know where they're gonna get sent until the hospital gets it done. And then we could be having a guy who's been on shift for 10 of his 12 hours and having to send them to Las Cruces or Albuquerque or any of that. kind of
We
thing.
always done that?
We didn't choose to. This has been something that's got really come up over the last 15 years. and it's slowly increased. I don't feel that this is something police officers should be
What
doing.
did they do before?
They sent them by ambulance. And the state statute says that it's basically the responsibility of the local law enforcement.
Or a doctor.
So, and I learned that about 15 years ago.
Or a doctor?
The doctors,
Did our transfer post office.
yeah, the doctor can order the commitments. This is where I am so ready for this hospital employees. So that we can have a 20-minute drive
Great.
to get there, leave them and come back. Instead of turning it into something where we have to struggle to try to find people to do a transfer. The worst ones are not even the mental health ones, the worst ones are the juvenile ones. Where we have to drive them to farming.
Have you gone to Santa Teresa yet?
Oh,
You know where that's at?
Yeah.
It's not El Paso, just on the border.
Yeah, you gotta go through Texas to get to it.
We used to send ambulances down there quite often until we changed, well, the way we operated on that
Wow.
procedure. And it's not a new problem. It's been around for over a decade.
right. So it used to be we would, somebody who was in a mental health crisis, take them to the hospital and we were done. Now, it's, we get them to the hospital, wait hours, the doctors go through their process. Some of them don't want to do the commitment themselves, so they seek a court order from the district judge, which just slows the process down, because all we need is, unless we're taking them out of state, we don't have to have that court order.
And sometimes, I don't know if they still do, they would deny them at the door. We've transported to Las Vegas.
Right.
And they turn us around at the door and deny the patient. Or refuse the patient, I'm sorry.
So you bring them back.
Bring them back.
They'd want us to, but we don't typically have an order, so unless that person wants to, we can't.
We learned to just drop them off and get gone as fast as you can. And they can't reload you.
Absolutely.
That's terrible, but I mean,
Yeah.
we gotta make tracks.
Yeah, and then the last part of that is just the recruitment. It's, of course, it's a nationwide issue. It's not something that's isolated just to our area. I mean, I talk with Chief Rice in Clovis all the time. He's going through the same thing. Sheriff Reeves, Perry County, same thing. Almost everybody's shorthanded. I mean, we're trying the job fairs, we're continuing the advertising, offering incentives. The incentives will get some people through the door, but then they can't pass the physical requirement is our biggest.
So the retention program is working though? It is working compared to what we used to have.
Well, we only had 3 people who didn't take the recruitment or the retention incentives. One of those people didn't want to because his wife was active duty military and he didn't feel that he could commit to that and his marriage at the same time. So understand.
Hmm.
We're even paying these guys a $2,000 incentive if they recruit somebody. So we can add to it. And that's how we've gotten two of the 4.
That's a good incentive. Okay, anything else, Chief? Anybody have questions or comments? No? Okay. You need it? Okay, moving on to item number C, discussion and action items. Chief Kathy.
Yes, ma'am. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a plan working. We greatly appreciate your support in. I visited with the finance director and city manager last week. If you look at your Excel sheet that I gave all of you. So for this fiscal year in FY 24, we have a little over 542,000 budgeted for overtime. Right now, we're using about $15,000 a pay period. I estimate if we can hire 1 more per shift, we can cut that by about 20%. So that would give us a projected FY 24 overtime cost of $351,900.90. The kicker is adding a new position costs about $74,000 a year. Even though the employee doesn't make that much, that's what it costs the city to employ them. So for 3 new people, it would cost just under $90,000. But with that, $90,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Right, I was gonna say, half of the
180
fiscal.
for the entirety of the next fiscal year. But with the potential savings in our overtime, we should be able to fund 3 new positions, not only for the remainder of this fiscal year, but also for the next fiscal year without having to increase our overall budget. It's something that we're looking at stringently to make sure we're gonna evaluate overtime. We're gonna schedule a meeting in January to help improve that 60% increase in employees to cover 200% increase in calls for service. So I would just respectfully request your approval or go ahead to continue that process. Be glad to answer the
Does
question.
anybody have any questions?
Chief, what was your overtime budget in your last fiscal year?
I don't remember off the top of my head what the budget was, but I know we used just under 450,000. Which was, we went way over what was budgeted, because at one point last fiscal year, we were short 8 people.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, what is the pleasure of, what do you guys want to do? Where do you?
You need a motion for us to
Jim,
to the council?
or just an approval to continue the process, because we're not looking at doing this right now. We're just looking at, okay, this is the plan.
Moving forward with it
Moving
and,
forward. Yes.
right, okay,
I think it's a great plan. I think you crunched the numbers well. You did your job great.
I agree.
okay, okay, looks like we are behind you, go ahead.
So as far as the next item would be the vehicle replacement plan. I'm looking for funding ideas from this committee to try to cover that cost.
Funding ideas,
And you're asking for a perpetual funding that,
Just any idea. I mean,
An idea.
obviously, we can't rely on ICID or grant funding alone to accommodate the vehicle needs for any department, but specifically our department
Have you met with the commissioner? Is there any-
tomorrow.
that would be a great funding source for vehicle replacement if they pull it off with the county.
Well, and if y'all would like, I can give you a quick update on what's going on with the county and the city negotiations.
okay,
So I've received approval from council to present to the county commission. I've worked with counselors, Cordova and Kaplan to develop the presentation that I'll be presenting tomorrow morning at 9. We've also been working closely with the area volunteer departments to make sure that we're all on the same page. But hopefully we can spur on a little action to get this process started, because I cannot find an existing agreement. And as I said, the council began to question the authority we have to run outside the city limits without an agreement.
so there's no current agreement,
Not that we can find. I have emailed the county to get a copy of the most recent. I have not received it.
I never saw an agreement or a contract with any kind, I think it was more of a gentleman agreement
agreement,
when that happened back in 1988.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
the gentlemen no longer exist,
Some of them do.
some of them do, but
You think it'll ever come to that where you don't?
I hope not. My goal is to communicate the services our department provides and that we are the best, most economical delivery source for those services. I really hope that never even becomes a possibility, because that's a scary thought. But in reality, it's the county commission's choice on who they choose to provide services in the areas between municipal boundaries that the city council has no power. That's up to the county commission to determine services.
it's not.
And the problem I see in the future with that is that the county departments are gonna follow suit with whatever the city does. And they will only have to respond in their incorporated area of Elida. So if you live outside of Elida, you're in trouble. And every department will do that.
Or if you're traveling between.
Yeah, if you're traveling, you know, between here and Portales. Whose district is that? It's the county. Not Portales nor Elida. And that's where it's going, and it's gonna end up creating bigger.
Well, and as I stated in the city council meeting, it is up to the governing body of the fiscal agent to determine the 911 response zone. So for Dora, it's their village council, Elida, their town council, Floyd, Ozzy, city of Dallas. It's not up to me to determine, even though I feel that the way we're doing it works really well and it provides a very effective means of providing services. It's not up to the individuals providing the services, it's up to the governing bodies.
And what are we looking at as far as monies, like,
Historically, they pay $30,300 a year. Last fiscal year, it cost the city of Portales just under $384,000 to provide services outside of its boundaries.
wow,
According to the actual numbers.
Not to include people may have to
Yeah.
depreciation.
Yeah,
As statutes.
okay, anybody have anything? Don?
I
Yes.
just want to mention that, and you'll have probably looked at this, but for years I interviewed people with the USDA rural development. And I cannot see why Roosevelt County could not get grants from them. They are put there to help small towns. Okay, and I don't know if anybody in you know, Lada or Dora or any of those other places are set up or able to look for grants, but they would talk to me when they came down from Albuquerque and tell me about small towns up in the mountains and places where they had fire trucks, ambulances, all this kind of equipment. The cities did not, or the towns did not pay a dime for it. And if we can get help in that way in Roosevelt County, we ought to do it.
I will mention that to our grant writer, Joe McVeigh, and I will also pass that along to the volunteer chiefs.
And those have been around for a long time. You know, Portales really didn't qualify for them as a municipality and what some of their criteria was at the time. But the county would absolutely qualify for some of those grants.
Yeah. If the county, if the county people would just do that, they, you know, they could leave one here. You know, I'm sure you wouldn't mind parking a nice new fire truck out by the station, but, you know, I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Yes, sir.
That is a good idea. It's something that we can definitely look at. Thank you, Dawn. Okay, anything else? Keith? Okay,
All right, the last item that I had was the balanced public safety rates. And I want to start by saying that, you know, I think that all public safety is undervalued across our region, across our state. And I think that we are extremely blessed in the city of Portales and Roosevelt County with the high quality first responders and public safety departments that we have. But me being the fire chief, I'm focused on the fire and EMS service. As it stands right now, we start people at $4 to $5 an hour less than other public safety entities in our own city. Questions? Comments?
Why is it that we pay $45 less than this budget?
It's historically been budgeted that way. Since I've gotten here and learned that, we have managed to put in almost a 15% raise for firefighters, but it's nowhere near what other agencies are paying.
The chief knows going to test this. This isn't a new problem.
No. No, and you know, it's not one person's fault or. Not one person caused it. There was a time when we got behind. And it wasn't a person, it wasn't someone's fault, it was. Related to funding and budget, you know, there were years we went without raises and you have to just deal with it. We went without COLAs for way too long, 7 years at one time. And that's how you get behind. I mean, you go over 10 years and there's 20% of your salary at a 2% COLA if you don't get one in 10 years. So that's literally how we fell behind as a city, especially in the fire department. Was that reason. So it's gotta be caught back up somehow and kept up with cost of living from here on out.
Well, and I fully believe that our brothers and sisters in blue and our dispatchers are vitally important and should be paid well. I would never deny that, and I'm just hoping this is gonna come. Open with it. But that being said, I think my people should be prepared.
And I won't disagree with that. I mean, it's the three prongs of public safety. We have dispatch, that we can't do any of it without law enforcement, fire, EMS. I mean, I would love it if we could just all three be pretty much comparable
To start. Yeah, because each public safety entity has different responsibilities, different roles. What they can do, I can't do. What we can do, they don't do. It's different,
But we all work together
but we all
to
work
make
together.
it work.
Yeah.
As right, and if you don't do what you're supposed to do, the whole operation doesn't work correctly.
Well, and I know that council receives a lot of phone calls about potholes, bumpy streets and full dumpsters. But if the public safety agencies in our city, in our county, and our state don't have the resources necessary, that's truly risking not only their lives, but also the community's lives. I realize that we don't bring a lot of attention on ourselves, we don't get a lot of phone calls. But at the same time, I feel that we're vitally important.
And there has to be a balance, you know, each department is unique in public safety, licensure level, totally different than police department. You know, but again, when you get to that upper level and you try to offer this paramedic a job that you know is gonna be a great street medic, and they laugh at you because of your salary, you know, you've got a problem. You can't hire the cream of the crop. You can't even attract the cream of the crop.
Or retain.
And then you train them, and then they're great paramedic, Dr. Patel trains them, and they go somewhere else.
Training ground. We've done that, been there, done that.
Well, I started.
We've done it for years.
We've been doing this since 90 and before. I mean, Portales is small for a lot of young people going into these career fields. They want the fun, they want the flashy, they want the excitement. They don't want what we have or don't have. In law enforcement, we don't have motorcycles, we don't have dogs, horses, SWAT teams, all this fun stuff to do,
No Applebee.
right? And we don't even have Dunkin' Donut.
Okay.
We don't have some of the things that the younger people in these fields want, but then we can't attract the older because of the pay.
But we do offer them something, great training and great experience, so they could move on down the road. And been looking for it.
And there's not a retention program within the fire department.
No, and I applaud the police chief for all the work he's done on grant funding through the state to get those. That just hasn't been made available on our side. Yet.
That would be really, really good to be able to do that. Again, it's funding. It's all about the money.
Yes.
It's all about,
Well, in the fire service, para has still got them locked down too. They won't let a retired para individual.
that's what I was just gonna say.
Same
Same thing with
They're
law
completely
enforcement.
locked down. It's ridiculous. And you have guys that can retire at 40 years old that you won't let come back to work with all that experience.
So instead they go to other states.
Yeah, they don't penalize them for it, you know, you can still retire and go on and work.
And it wasn't always like that, was it?
No, they considered it double dipping, and they came in and said, well, you can retire and come back, but we're gonna suspend that good salary that you retired at, and we'll give you the new salary for as long as you can work. And it's not an incentive to come back.
Right. Well. I wish we had something to pull and just give to you, but you'll definitely, you're gonna be talking to the county in the morning, you said.
Yes,
Keep us informed on how that goes. Hopefully that'll. If we come up with anything else, if anybody comes up with anything else that. That we can. Do, and you guys apply for grants. And we appreciate that very much because I think a lot of. Those that are working to apply for all these different grants that are available out there. Is basically. It used to be the last resort. Now it's almost the only resort.
That's your life thing.
I'd love to
Exactly.
get to a point
Pipeline.
where grant funding was for the things that we wanted, not the things that we desperately need. We apply for 6 grants a year internally in the fire department, plus what Joe was applying. So far in my career, we've been fairly successful and almost got about $1 million in grant funding. We're seeing a taper off because the previous chief did a kindness to the new chief. And didn't apply for a few grants the last couple of years he was employed in the city. So that.
There's no
way we
federal
apply.
grant anyway.
Yeah. Well, but that way when we apply, we're in the top of this. Now we're seeing that, oh, you were funded last year, you're not gonna get funded this year. Because it bumps you down in priority.
The last 5 years usually.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the information. So we will definitely keep this at the top of our list.
Diane, I've got one
Yes.
more, I'm sorry. If we're talking about money and how hard it is to get, have we considered even looking at a public safety tax of some sort? I mean, naming it that to where it's dedicated to that.
Everything we found is that the county.
Yeah, we do that. The city does, the municipality doesn't have the taxing power to do that.
So- So in other words, you just grade GRT and then direct that where.
Right.
Where you wanted it to go.
Yes.
Okay, I know Albuquerque does it, and it's probably Bernalillo County that does the public safety tax.
Bernalillo County, Taos County, San Juan County.
Yeah. But again, I'm answering on that one, right? Okay, well, thank you so much, all of you, for all the great information. Does anybody else have anything else that they would like to bring forward regarding that? Okay, moving to item number D, other business, any matter not known about or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting of the agenda. Discussion only, no action may be taken on any other business. Any other business? For anyone?
I would like just a brief update on the safe haven baby box thing. We discussed it a few
Take it,
weeks back. I've had questions, people have been asking me about it, so.
Right now, we're waiting for our city attorney to draft up the contract. There was a gentleman in another state that reached out to our city attorney trying to like base some claims that were invalid. I think he's been harassing, from what I understand, harassing the Right to Life group and trying to stop baby boxes nationwide. So Chief Kathy was able to get some certification information on it. We're ready to move forward. We're just waiting for the contract to be drafted. I'm hoping we can have something by the next council meeting. Because our attorney was out on vacation, so that's our goal.
So the council has approved, right?
The council, the last council meeting, we instructed the attorney to write up a contract regardless of whatever comes our way.
Great.
We're getting the box.
With the risk. of-
And
Yep.
some of the concerns that the gentleman that Paul brought up were legitimate concerns that we should look at. Whether or not it was FDA. Yeah,
OSHA regulations.
OSHA regulated, you know,
Yes.
things that are important. It is, we received all the appropriate
We
documentation.
have all the
from what I
documentation
understand.
for it.
Right.
So.
I think it's a great thing
Oh,
for
yes.
any city to have. you know, it's, FDA approved or not, it's better than a dumpster,
Mhm,
you know,
Anything
Yeah.
that could help save a life.
absolutely.
Yes,
exactly.
yeah, so we're just waiting for the contract and then we get
Great.
the council for review, and we should be good to go.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
so hopefully very, very soon.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, great. Dawn, anything?
But real quickly, Ed, I think I know what you can do with your 3 blue cars. Okay, when I was coming here to college, which was 60 years ago, the state of Ohio would take the cars that no longer would
In
work
operation.
with, it would put them up on hills where you could see that they could run down and get on the highway and come get you. They did this, and it worked. It really worked. It worked for me. I saw that blue car, I care what color it was at that time. I drove right on down. So you might want to try it.
Wasn't there one in Elida
Yeah.
for a while? There was somebody that bought
They
it.
had one Grady too, but not Grady, up there somewhere, when we go to the lake, yeah. Kind of fake man said.
I don't know the way to. Down in Texas, we had one sitting there with Donald Trump cut out.
Well, thank you for that, Don. We appreciate that. The chief will take that into consideration. Thank you. Okay. Chief, nothing?
Good, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? No, anybody else in the room? Has Sarah? Anybody? Okay, let's go ahead and really quickly look at our calendars. So we meet quarterly, so every 3 months. So according to November, being November, the next scheduled meeting would be in February. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I told Melissa, I said, we will get this scheduled, so this doesn't happen again. And I appreciate everybody's patience and so normally we meet on opposite time of the council meeting. So for example,
It would be the 8th or the 22nd.
I'm sorry,
It'd be the 8th or the
The 8th
22nd.
or the 22nd, you wanna do Mondays or Thursdays?
February or Thursdays?
Monday or
Thursday.
Thursday.
You wanna do Mondays or Thursdays?
Mondays or Thursdays, the committee,
I'm good whenever you understand.
which is better? Now, Mr. Kane is on the committee and he wasn't able to come because do they have board meetings on Mondays? They had a board meeting tonight.
So Thursdays would be better.
So
Maybe.
Thursdays, I think will be better, because I'm thinking they used to have board meetings on Mondays, so
Right.
maybe we need to go on Thursdays. So that would be the 8th through the 22nd.
Or the first? Because the first is the first Thursday of the month too. So you got the 1st February, the 8th, and the 22nd. For, yeah, cause council is 13 and 27.
Right. Okay, what do you guys? I would like to get it set to where it's like the last Thursday of the month or the 3rd Thursday of the month. And that way we all kind of know.
Yeah, if you guys can set that now, she can get a calendar going for
Right.
everybody and. have
And then that way everybody will know. Let's see, so we want to do it opposite the week of,
So the 3rd Thursday of the month probably would be your best bet.
well, that would be the
22nd.
Also in
That-
November next year.
That would be the 15th of February.
22nd.
Yeah, 15, cause
Well,
council is
because this
13 and
February, there's
27.
4, there's 5.
Yeah.
This February, there's 5,
So Thursday's the
Thursdays.
15th, that's council week.
Okay, so the 22nd.
the 22nd,
22nd is 4th,
okay,
cause council is 13th and 27th. Planning and zoning is the 19th.
so the 22nd, does that sound good to everybody? Okay, we had written in our minutes the time before that we were gonna meet at 5. And this time we met at 5:30, is 5:30 better for everybody than?
I think 5 works, but I think there was a miscommunication with the
Okay.
old agenda that we had.
Okay,
And
so let's,
yeah.
is 5 o'clock okay with everybody? Okay, so let's meet at 5 o'clock on February the 22nd, which is a Thursday.
And do you want them the 3rd Thursday every month after that at the same time?
Yes,
We will get a calendar out.
yes,
At 5
please,
o'clock, you said?
Yes.
at 5 p.m.
Yep.
Here in this room. Okay,
And then after that, it'll be the 3rd It'll
Third.
be once a quarter.
Every Thursday.
Yes, every third,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we'll get you
Okay.
a calendar.
That way we all kind of know ahead of time when we'll be meeting, so that we won't have to try to get hold of everybody. Okay, anything else? I thank you all for being here tonight. I thank you all for your patience and everything, and thank you very much, Melissa, for getting everything done. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.